Hi, everyone. I'm Sorrina Beecher, a reporter with Technically in partnership with American Family Insurance Institute for Corporate and Social Impact. And today, joining us from behind the mic is Tarik Moody. He is the program director at 88.9 Radio Milwaukee and so many other things. And he joins us here to talk about that today. Today, we just want to talk a little bit about Milwaukee's tech ecosystem, especially when we're looking at peer metro areas. As you guys probably know, we have some of the lowest venture capital investment here in Milwaukee when we look at other cities like Austin or Baltimore, or Pittsburgh or Minneapolis. And so our goal of this newsletter, which is this week in Milwaukee Rising, is to shine a light on the stories and the people who are shaping Milwaukee's tech ecosystem and the economy and helping it make more inclusive and diverse. And so Tarik joins us today. Tarik, thank you for joining us and talking to us today. So excited to have you. I followed you on LinkedIn forever. I know you're involved in a lot of things in Milwaukee, but you're not actually from the city. Could you just tell us where you're from, and then we'll talk a little bit about your role in Radio Milwaukee.
Sure. As of this month, I've been 15 years living in Milwaukee. Before that, I was in Minneapolis, where I used to practice architecture. And then I lived in Detroit for a couple of years, also practicing architecture, working for Northwest Airlines when they were an airline before they got taken over by Delta. And then I went to school at Howard University and lived in D.C. for a little over 5 years. And then I grew up mostly in and out of Atlanta, Georgia, most of my life. But I was born in Kentucky. I lived in Houston. I lived in Birmingham, Alabama, Charleston, South Carolina also. So Milwaukee is my ninth city I lived in since I was born.
Sure. And you have been working at 88.9 Radio Milwaukee for quite some time. Can you tell me a little bit about your role there?
My role has always been changing. So I started off, actually, I guess the story is basically they kind of recruited me here where I was doing architecture in Minneapolis, and then I just had a radio show and did it for fun and kind of things. And then they heard that show and knew I love tech, and I was involved in digital kind of endeavors in Minneapolis as well. And then they recruited me. And when I got here, I was kind of still am, I guess, jack of all trades. So I was do a title, I guess at the time was digital manager, where I built a newsletter. I managed early social media. I was a beta tester for Twitter and Facebook pages and groups before most, I think 88.9, don't quote me, we're probably one of the first stations in the market to have a Facebook page. Just because I was just getting my hands in everything. I'm also on air, still am. I have a show, Rhythm Lab Radio, which started in Minneapolis, which is also continuing here. It's now in its 16th year of the show, which is syndicated. I guess just recently picked up 2 radio stations in upstate New York recently, part of syndication. So I think we're at 8-9 stations total, including Milwaukee. But over times, I've been mostly in charge of everything aspect digital for the station. Up until most recently, I was the director of digital strategy and innovation. And now I am program director for a new upcoming station that will be launching on Juneteenth.
Fantastic. And I want you to talk to our audience a little bit about that. You're actually launching a new urban alternative channel. What does that mean, and how did this idea come about? Why was it important to bring this show to the airwaves?
So the new station is a part of a new format called Urban Alternative. It's spearheaded by the Corporation for Public Broadcasting, the same group that funds a lot of what Sesame Street does, NPR, all that kind of stuff. They saw a lack of effort on the public radio space to try to attract young Black and brown multicultural audiences to the public radio space, especially on the music dial. A lot of music station, public radio caters what they call a format as AAA or classical or jazz, which usually is for older audience. So they never had a music format that geared towards a younger audience, especially ones that look like us. And so they started asking for requests for proposals for grants. Actually, I was approached by a consultant to help consult with these stations in the last few years with Jordan Lee, who was our station director. whose actually last day is today, actually, at the station. And then we decided, we consulted with some other markets for this new format. And then Jordan Lee and some other people decided, well, we can do it better. Why don't we have our own station? So we applied for the grant and got the grant. And I guess I decided during a pandemic, everybody starts like looking back on their lives and what I need to do something more impactful. And I kind of raised my hand. I said, like, I've been doing my show. I've been doing this for more than 15 years. And I want to make an impact here in Milwaukee, and I thought this is the best way. So I raised my hand to become program director for this station. It's a digital first station, stream, also HD channel, and it will be on air when we launch Monday through Fridays from 9 p.m. to 3 a.m. on 88.9 proper.
And when are you guys officially launching?
It'll be Juneteenth.
June
19th, 2022. Yep. We'll actually be launching the name this month. I won't announce the date yet, but it will be later this month. The name and the branding will be announced this month with some little special treats for people as well.
To be determined. Yeah. You also host the Diverse Disruptors, podcast. Can you tell our audience a little bit about what that is and why you also thought that was important to bring to the forefront?
As I said before, I've been involved in tech since I was, 9, 10. My parents got me a computer when I was 8 years old. I learned the computer program, basic language, at 10 years old back in 1983. I learned to build computers. I owe a lot of all my opportunities, my love of tech, including the radio station, my job in architecture, because I was always loving graphics and all 3D graphics, 3D modeling. So I saw the power of tech, and I saw what it was doing around the country, but I didn't see a lot of people that looked like me in spaces of tech. And so I wanted to highlight entrepreneurs and innovators in that space to tell their story. Because as you probably heard the statement, the quote, reputation matters. When you see someone that looks like you, you're most likely to be inspired. Ask Sorrina and Venus Williams, probably see a lot more Black people, especially young Black girls and Black women, want to play tennis because of Sorrina and Venus Williams. Mm-hmm. Naomi Osaka is an example of that, right? So why not do that on the tech side? So Diverse Disruptor was born out of a program I called 88.9 Labs, where before the pandemic, we had events, we had game jams, we had hackathons. Kind of pandemic kind of shut that down. So I decided, well, we're a radio station. What do you do best? It's podcasts. So let's start telling these stories. So first season, we had guests from Milwaukee and around the country in different sectors, different spaces, from venture capital to entrepreneurs to principals of high schools, to talk about their journey into innovation and tech, of people of color, Black and brown, women, LGBTQ plus, and others to tell their story.
That's great. And we are a community of technology professionals here. Our readers loved everything tech, are often founders and entrepreneurs. But in Milwaukee, we're new, and we really want to start, sparking this conversation around how Milwaukee can embrace a future in tech. So as you're well aware, and you're working to dismantle some of those challenges and break some barriers, Milwaukee often ranks near the bottom for venture capital, for entrepreneurs of color, for so-called investable ideas. And I'm going to ask you a question about that later, but in your eyes and your experience being here in Milwaukee, what are the biggest challenges in getting our tech ecosystem off the ground?
Collaboration. We need to do better on collaboration and getting out of our silos. The thing I've heard a lot since I moved here is like Milwaukee is a bunch of silos, and whether it's tech or other creative sectors or other business sectors, it's a very, for a city being so small, is very siloed. One, we got to start learning to collaborate and learning not to see other people as competitors. We're all in this together to amplify the voices and the people in the city, to make our city we're in a global competition. We're not competing against Madison. We're competing about everybody. We're competing against New York. We're competing against Silicon Valley. We're competing against Atlanta. We're competing against Pittsburgh. We need to look at that and start really bringing people together from different places and not try to compete with each other and recreate the wheel. So that's one way of doing it. One is also investing in the community, like truly investing in the community, Black and brown community, not just the little money to get the press and stuff, but really truly investing and making sure these people that look like us are at the table or have the ability to build our own table as well to create the table. So those are some of the big kind of challenges, overarching challenges to help grow this system.
Yeah, and I know when we were talking earlier before this chat, you talked about this idea of legacy in Milwaukee and how Milwaukee seems to be a little bit too comfortable in the status quo. We have a lot of great legacy companies, and they do great work in the city, but it also kind of prevents fresh ideas and fresh faces from breaking through. Can you talk to us a little bit about that?
Well, I want to. It's about young leadership, right? I look at other cities and their ecosystems, and I look at the leaders, political, educational. They're younger. Like Minneapolis mayor is very young, right? Atlanta mayor is young. Corporate leaders are young. We need our current leaders in all sectors really need not only to mentor, but bring them into the spaces of leadership, right? And that's every sector. And that's the biggest thing I've noticed that needs to happen here, because there's a lot of young people who have great ideas, great work ethic, but they're starving for like opportunities. And if the opportunity's not here, guess what? They're going to go find that opportunity somewhere else. And it's happening, especially with, there was a report in Washington Post about like a lot of Black people are leaving the major cities you think about, and most of them are leaving the Midwest, going south because there's opportunities down south. Entrepreneurship is huge down there. Venture capital, like a lot of Black venture capital. So you're losing talent. Milwaukee has lost population. Chicago's lost population. The only Midwest city that didn't lose population in the report was Minneapolis, because they're doing the things that I'm talking about. You know, they're not perfect. They're not a utopia in Minneapolis by stretch of meaning. You saw what happened to George Floyd, but there's effort. There's true effort going on in that in Minneapolis to like attract Black talent to a city that's, you know, it's cold. It's very cold, right? and Milwaukee says, well, we can't attract talent because it's cold. Well, Minneapolis has proven us wrong. So what is it, Milwaukee? We need to stop. Really, you know, it's great to pat ourselves on the back, but we need to start doing. We talk about our work ethic, and let's start doing the work if we really want to be a global city, competitive city.
Sure. And that actually brings me to a question about this idea of that Milwaukee doesn't have investable ideas. We know that around 80% of our tech jobs are actually embedded in some of those legacy industries, such as manufacturing, such as insurance, water tech, and those sorts of things. What is your reaction when people say, you know, Milwaukee just doesn't have enough investable ideas?
They're lazy. They're not really digging in and really connecting the community. They're not asking the right questions. I'm going to be blunt. Dana Guthrie, I want to shout out Dana Guthrie, Gateway Capital. She's finding investable ideas, right? So,
and hopefully we'll be talking to her soon.
Yeah, so she's proved people wrong there. You know, she's already invested in her firm launched recently. She already invested in 2 startups, and one is moving from Madison to Milwaukee. I know a gentleman, Leonard, called Afro Charts, the African digital music streaming service. He did it himself, a developer, one-shop developer, and like he was a refugee of Burundi, comes to Milwaukee. I met with him, and I'm like, I'm trying to help him. Like, there's tons of great ideas. The people in charge need to like get out of their, you know, corner office and go to the ground and talk to people and open their minds. I think there's a lot of investable ideas because I think that's basically just, as I said, it's laziness on the part of the gatekeepers who just, I feel like they just don't want to spend their money sometimes. And I said before, people like Dana Guthrie has proven them wrong. So shouts out to her.
And that actually is a good segue into what are some things that you see that Milwaukee is doing right when it comes to attracting, retaining talent. We have a lot of challenges, but is there any bright lights?
Oh yeah, there's great bright lights. There, I said before, Dana Guthrie. There's Nadia Johnson, the Milky Way Tech Hub. There's El Amin and Khalif El Amin and Q El Amin of Young Enterprise and the Blueprint Accelerator. There's the MKE Tech Coalition. There's a lot of people doing the right things in the space. They just need the support of the real support from the legacy companies to help them scale and grow. These people got the energy, they got the ideas, they need the support, whether it's financial support, mentor support, or just general, just amplifying their support. That's what I think the gatekeepers who are conservative in their, not politics, but conservative in their investments need to look at, because they're doing the work. Because if they don't get the support, I wouldn't. If they leave, we're to blame for them leaving.
Sure.
You know.
So what can entrepreneurs do to push for change?
Entrepreneurs need to. It's starting to happen. I've seen like some nights at Wantable Cafe where they had Founders Fest. We need more events like that. Media organization like yourself covering these stories is important, because if if no one covers a story, no one knows about it. What's like, if a tree falls and no one's there, does anybody hear it? Does it happen? Right. So it takes, as I say, it takes a village, right? Again, the biggest thing is get out of the silos and start collaborating, supporting each other, and joining other communities and amplifying other people.
Mm-hmm.
So that's the bare minimum entrepreneurs need to do: support each other.
Sure. And you've been here for a while now. Since you kind of first came to Milwaukee, what are some of the changes, either negative or positive, that you have seen take place over this time period? I think you said around 15 years you've been here.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Well, that's a interesting question. Well, I said before, what I just mentioned before, like the Dana Guthries of the world, and what Blueprint and Milky Way Tech Hub on the tech side is amazing, but also on the music side. I've seen a lot of creativity on the music side, a lot of artists doing some amazing things. I'm learning, because of the station, what we're doing. I'm learning about what's going on the north side, which has been kind of ignored in kind of the experience of Milwaukee. And these artists are creating some mad, crazy numbers online and doing some crazy stuff. Like Lakia is probably one of the biggest artists right now out of Milwaukee. And I just learned about another one. Can't even think of his name. Huey V. That's signed to Memphis Bleak's label from Milwaukee, is doing some stuff. So the creative scene, the creative sector is a very promising. Milwaukee Film Festival, one of the fastest growing film festivals in the country. One of my favorite events of the year. Like, I love what they're doing, and the different programs like Black Lens. And so I really want to hype up the creative sector. And I think the corporations and the industries and the sector really need to recognize that creativity brings talent. You can't ignore the creative sector. Brings a lot of talent. A lot of people want to ignore that. And it's like, that's frivolous. But look at Atlanta's film and what they're doing in creative. That brings a lot of talent down there, and a lot of other secondary businesses that supports the creative industry. So we need to look at it holistically, and I mean all our leaders, nonprofit, the philanthropy, the government. We need to really look at what our young people are doing and creating and support that.
Absolutely. And that kind of brings me to something you shared with me before, is like a lot of people during the pandemic, you started reflecting on where you were. And now with the advances in remote work, I know I work from home. I could work from anywhere as a writer. You thought about, getting out of Dodge here and maybe leaving Milwaukee and trying to do what you're doing in another city. What kept you here, and what can we do to ensure that Milwaukee is a appealing place to be?
Well, what kept me here? I guess the story is, this is shortly after George Floyd and like Milwaukee's issue with race, and then like I'm from Atlanta, and looking at how Atlanta's not perfect from a long shot, but how Atlanta really has become this mecca for Atlanta Black talent, right? And then all these other southern cities kind of spin off and grew as well. And my folks, I have no family here. My folks in Alabama. And I was like, they're getting older. Maybe I should go back home to Atlanta and just plug right in and enjoy my life, But then I talked to my parents, and like my parents said, you're making an impact here. You're doing, people look up to you, which is something that I'm not used to, I think I take a lot of Wisconsin traits of being very humble, which I think sometimes we're too humble. And I decided, maybe I should, I can go back to Atlanta and plug in, but I feel like my nature is I want to make an impact. I want to make a difference. Like, if I go to Atlanta, will I really make a difference? I don't know. I'd be happy. I like get to see shows I like, get to eat foods I like, and all the stuff I love. But I see a lot of young people frustrated, right?
Mm-hmm.
I know I can't solve their problems. I can try with what I'm trying to do here with the station. It's not going to be everything, but hopefully it'll help and maybe inspire people. Um, so I decided to stay and made a commitment to try to build this, and hopefully somebody down the line will take over from me, a younger person, because I don't want to do this forever.
Mm-hmm.
As I said before, I reflected. One of the things I reflected on is like I want to do something that separates me from my professional life, and I became passionate about sake, and I want to get into sake, and I want to learn about venture capital. Like I've been talking to Dana about venture capital, and like I'm excited about that. Like I kind of want to do that down the line once this station's off the ground. So I don't want to be I don't want to get complacent, right? In a position, you know. But I feel some people get in a position, they stay there forever, and then no new ideas comes, and then. But I feel like I want to create something where I want a young person to see this and take it somewhere else that I couldn't see it, right? That's my goal. Then I can go have my sake and learn about venture capital and do something else.
Yeah, so just shifting gears, can you talk to us a little bit about sake? Because I know you've put on some events around this, and it's something very different here, at least in our city. So can you talk to us a little bit about that?
Well, yeah. So I always loved sake since I first had it at a Howard University. A friend took me to sushi, and like never had sushi, in college, and they had this sake, and I was like, oh, this is so good. And I joked at the time, man, it'd be kind of cool to have a sake brewery. It was a joke. This is back in the 90s, late 90s. And then ever since, I always loved sake, Never really, it was always in my back of my head. And then in Minneapolis, I DJed at a sushi bar just to get sake. I got paid, but like I really wanted the sake. And then like, again, it was kind of like thinking back of like, I want something that separates me from my professional life. Because I feel like my professional life is everything I am. And I've learned that's not a good thing. And I wanted something like something craft, something I can learn that separates me from the whole tech thing, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And it became like I was fascinated by always been fascinated by Japanese culture since I was a kid. And the sake thing kind of clicked. I did some research. Someone told me about this class course. I signed up for the course that was online because of the pandemic. And it was every weekend and 6 hours every weekend in January of 2020. Was it 2020, 2021? 2021. Took the course and then started doing tastings at No Studios, and I'm just learning more and more about it. And then hopefully the ultimate goal is to hopefully this year do some home brews.
Nice.
I got some projects in the works that I can't share that hopefully I might come off with some other ideas with sake. But yeah, it was just mainly something just to, I just wanted something outside of tech.
Yeah, sure. And I'm going to actually bring you back to tech because I know we're getting short on time. I wanted to know in your eyes, what are you excited about in the future? What potential do you think Milwaukee has? Do you think that we could, make a mark on the tech scene? Or
I think Milwaukee. My goal is like here's a story. Atlanta was never always hot Atlanta, right?
mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
It was a city. It was a cool city. There's a theory. There's a joke where it's like old Atlanta, new Atlanta. When that happened? When did old Atlanta become new Atlanta? People talk about 1996 Olympics, and I remember I was in high school. Two guys, one public sector, private sector, one Atlanta compete for the Olympics. It was a joke. People thought they laughed at him. They're like, "Are you kidding me? Atlanta in the Olympics?" Like they didn't take him seriously. I remember that. I remember in high school we were laughing about this. Atlanta getting Olympics? Haha, that's a joke. We can't even win the World Series. We're not getting Olympics. And then they got it. And that mindset, people were like, oh, dang, we pulled this off. Not only one in Atlanta said they proved that collaboration worked. They're one of the few Olympic cities that actually made a profit. Most Olympic cities don't make a profit.
Mm-hmm.
And I saw that, and I saw the mindset change. One big win can change a mindset, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I think Milwaukee is on the precipice of something special. And I think looking at the ingredients that I'm seeing happening, where there's Dana Guthrie's of the world investing in a couple startups here, and or Fiveable really building the brand here, or Lakia about to explode as an artist, or the Bucks, the pieces are coming together.
Mm-hmm.
And I think we have the ability to be a next big market city to really make a stamp on the world. But sometimes, we got to get out of our own ways to let that happen. But I really believe that we have the right ingredients to be something that like other cities would be envious of and want to live here.
Awesome. Well, I think that is a great place to end on a positive note, right? I want to thank you for joining us today. And just to our viewers, if you want to join the conversation, we invite you to subscribe to the This Week in Milwaukee Rising newsletter at technically/subscribe, or you can join the conversation and get in touch with Tarik Moody. We can help you put in touch if you have more to talk about with him at Milwaukee@technically.com. So thank you guys for joining us. And until next time, we'll keep sharing all the stories of the entrepreneurs and civic leaders and innovators who are making Milwaukee a better city to live and play in. Thank you so much.
Thank you.